1, action.
All right, welcome back. The board has just come from executive session and now we will enter into our public section of the meeting. Can we all stand for the pledge?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Moving on to the agenda, can I have a motion to approve the agenda as stated?
So moved.
Second? All in favor? And then the consent agenda, right? Go straight into- Can I have approval for the consent agenda?
Moved.
A second? And before we go on, does anybody have anything to pull from the consent agenda? Stephanie?
3.3 fiscal. I was just wondering,
We approved everything else, right?
Okay, so we pull that and now we have to approve everything else on the consent agenda. So can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda less 3.3?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, so Stephanie, go ahead.
I was just curious about the KSQ Design Architects contract. I know that we're hiring them to do a building condition survey. And I just want to know what the process is. If they find any structures that need repair, how do we proceed with that?
So the building condition survey is a mandated report that all school districts need to submit to the New York State Education Department. It's basically a 5-year facilities plan that is sent to the state to ensure that districts are paying attention to their facilities. The building condition survey is a state document that only certified architects and engineers can conduct. So we can't conduct it on our own. We have to have a third party. KSQ has been an architectural group we've worked with for many years. They're the ones being appointed to do the building condition survey, which is mandated by New York State. What a building condition survey does is it informs the board and the community on improvements that can be made and can prioritize those improvements around health and safety, around different changes in law, whether it's IDEA or other laws, and can give a community an idea of what some priorities should be if a school district wants to repair or enhance their facilities. That building condition survey that gets submitted to New York State, the building condition survey must be submitted to New York State if a school district wants to do a capital construction project and receive state aid on it. So right now, well, I'll go back a couple of years. We did a $18.5 million capital project. We received around 10 to 11% state aid. We could only do that project and only improve those facilities that were identified in the building condition survey from 2016. All right. So we approved KSQ tonight. They will go through our district in the fall. They'll do the building condition survey. They'll submit it to the state. And then they'll sit with the board facilities committee and then the board saying, okay, here are all the things that we believe as an independent third-party architect and engineer firm you should or could improve upon in your district, from classrooms to your transportation center, to improve your lighting, your technology, whatever. Then we would have a discussion on whether or not we want to have go forward with a capital construction project to improve some of those things that KSQ identified in the building condition survey. We would only receive state aid, which I'll fast forward a year, is going to be around 30% because we're going to receive more state aid because of Indian Point closing. We would only get 30% state aid if our plans for improvement can be tied directly to that building condition survey. So it's one of the few times that the bureaucracy of the state education department creates a really good checks and balances. So we submit the plan. It doesn't mean we're going to do a capital project. It means that if we choose to, we can receive up to 30%. It's going to be around 31% state aid, so long as what we decide to do was already in that plan from the third party. We can't whisper in their ears, oh, hey, we want new playgrounds and a new basketball court or a new performing arts center. Their job is to be that independent set of eyes and ears to make those recommendations. So they are doing the building condition survey on behalf of the state. So that's sort of the checks and balances. So approving them tonight doesn't mean we'll do a project, but if we do a project, we have to have this already done. So it's a good thing to do because we want a report on the status of our facilities. It's been a number of years, but it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to do a capital project. But if we want to do a project, we have to have this report done in advance.
What's the timeline from approving this tonight to moving forward?
We approve this tonight. We'll be in touch with them by the end of the week. They'll probably request the blueprints of our facilities if they don't already have them, or they'll want new ones. And then they'll talk to their team and look at their schedule and see how quickly they could get through the facilities. Oftentimes these things, because this would happen in the fall, are going to take place afternoons, evenings, or maybe weekends to make sure they don't disrupt our program. So they'll be the ones that will set forth the timeline. Because they've got to go through everything. They look in ceiling tiles, they pull up carpet,
So we don't have an ETA when they're going to report back?
no, because we've got to, if we approve them first, then.
They'll give us the
Yeah,
timeline.
then they'll give us the timeline.
Okay. And then my other question is there a possibility that they come back and say that there's work that has to be done that is absolutely required? Like open.
They can't require
Okay.
work. The only work that can be required is work that is if we're out of code, or work that we're out of IDEA, Individuals with
And we're not.
Disability Act.
Okay, thank you.
Schools, I should say municipal buildings, so schools, town halls, those sort of facilities that are publicly funded are given a little more leniency and are grandfathered in a little bit more than if you were to build a private complex. The reason for that is because these facilities are publicly funded, and you need to have the public support the project, and so there's always this give and take in terms of what you must do versus what priorities are. Because what we would say as a school district is that if KSQ came back, or if the process was these 10 things you must do, well, then we would say, okay, well then you, the state or whoever, needs to fund these 10 things. It shouldn't be on the shoulders of taxpayers.
Okay, thank you.
But if there's a safety issue, they would raise that right away. I would
Oh,
assume,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. So most of these reports are either color coded or by priority. Many of them are health and safety first, and changes in regulations that we may be grandfathered in, but it'd be good to be up to speed or up to date. And then other considerations that would still be aidable but don't rise to the level of health and safety.
Yeah, I seem to remember we did this a while ago, and it was a big report with lots of pictures.
Oh, yeah.
And details and assessments of each of the individual. They would take pictures of little things on the floor, like, I don't think this happened, but if there were mold or something on the floor, they would take picture of it and say, you got to remediate this right away.
I think I'm going to give a broad range, but I think our building condition survey from 2016 identified $50 to $55 million of potential improvements. That's a lot. I mean, we've got aging buildings. We've got one of the oldest high schools in the county. Things fall apart, and they're also not cheap to fix. So, but Corey's exactly right. Some of the improvements that you'll end up seeing, or some of the recommendations, are going to be things that you will see front and center, like change the facade at you name it school because there's mold, or it's out of date or antiquated. You will see that will be aesthetically pleasing. And then there's going to be a lot of things that change the piping and the cabling and the whatever that no one's ever going to see, and those things are oftentimes the most expensive. Or change out the carpet. Now you might have asbestos tile or whatever. So there are always surprises, but it's also not cheap. So, the price tag that we will receive eventually is not a mandate of what we have to do. We can pick and choose, but we have to pick and choose what comes from that report.
Remember that.
Yeah.
And some of that made it into the capital project.
Sure.
And we got money back because of it. So we
Yes.
didn't have to pay for the whole amount.
Right. Absolutely. So the next piece is, if we choose to do a capital project based on that report, then you talk about how much, right? Okay, how much do we think taxpayers can support? What, and then prioritize the work. And that's stressful, because everyone has an opinion on what the priority should be, but what you can't really argue about are health and safety things. So that's why we start with those. Yeah.
Does anybody else have questions? So we've already this and then we move to the other pulled item. Okay. So can I have a motion to approve fiscal 3.3? Yeah. Second? One of you? There you go. All in favor? All right, moving on to the next item removed from the consent agenda is 4.1 acceptance of donations. This is a donation. The Office of Special Education has received donations in the amount of $350 to be utilized to pay for partial summer camp funding for students with significant handicapping conditions. And this is the Barbara Katzenstein Scholarship Foundation. So thank you for that. That's wonderful. Can I have a motion to approve the donation? Second, all in favor? There is, yeah. Behind you. Oh, another donation. Oh, so do we approve them individually? No. I didn't.
We
know
don't
the
have
second.
to, but
Okay, so the second donation is on a yearly basis, the district disposes of approximately 250 to 350 Chromebooks that have expired for student use. This year, the HHCEF is partnering with the district to donate 50 expired Chromebooks to the Gymnasia School District in the Ukraine. How cool. The Board of Education, nope, that's not it. Just that, there's nothing else.
yeah, so you're approving, as you just accepted a donation into the district, you're approving a donation out.
Okay, so this is a donation out of the district. Got it, of 50 Chromebooks. Awesome. Can I have a motion to approve this donation? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
I see two on here. All right, so now we move on to the superintendent's report.
Yeah, two quick updates. We are back to school mode. Sorry to all the kids, but we had two meet and greets today. This morning, Lauren Scollins at the middle school met with around 35 parents and students, and Anthony Giovinazzi met with faculty, staff, and students at the high school. There'll be a virtual meet and greet, another one at the high school on the 29th. And next week on the 31st and September 1st are our meet and greets at the elementary schools by grade level. So please check out our website. I know the principals sent a communication home last week, and I believe they're going to send another one home before next week. But we have a nice one pager of where and when all the meet and greets are on our website and on our social media. And some breaking news from a number of hours ago, we met with our state senator, Pete Harcum. Through the budget process last spring, he secured an additional $1 million directed to our school district. Mr. Harcum, Senator Harcum has been a very close friend and advocate of Hendrick Hudson ever since he's joined the Senate. He helped us secure over $64 million in power plant cessation funds to help offset the dwindling pilot from Indian Point, and was able to negotiate with the Senate an additional $1 million to our school district. So we posted that, he posted it, we posted it late this afternoon. All of the resources help, will help us maintain all of our programs, will help us maintain affordable cost of living and low taxes in our school district. And we thank the senator for his advocacy and networking with his colleagues to get this done.
That'll be reflected in next year's school
Will
budget.
be reflected in this year's school
This year.
budget. So the press release from the senator talked about fiscal year 23. We're on two different fiscal years. The Senate, or I'm sorry, the state fiscal year is April 1 to March, whatever it is, and we're July 1st to June 30th. So it was approved in last year's budget. They call it fiscal year 23. For us, it's the 22-23 school year.
Thank you.
Are there any restrictions or limitations to them?
We don't know that yet.
Anything tied to that?
We haven't read the fine print. Our understanding is this appears to be like what used to be called bullet aid. Bullet aid was colloquial for lawmakers bringing back state money for specific municipalities within the school district or within their region. So we don't know if there are any strings tied to the 1 million. I don't believe so. I think it will appear in state aid, a 1-year state aid adjustment. And state aid is really we can use for to support programs and pay the bills, or we could use these dollars to go to our fund balance, and fund balance is used to reduce taxes.
All right.
Great.
Moving on. We don't have any. No presentations tonight, and we have nobody signed up. Okay. Does anyone have any committee reports? I know we haven't been really meeting this summer. Yeah.
So, well, I have two questions. So
Yeah.
I'll ask Joe the question. Do you have any updates on the, is there any update that you can provide on the school monitoring program?
Oh, with
Air
regards to
monitoring.
Indian Point, yeah, we have, so we have the decommissioning oversight board. That is a board of elected officials, technical experts. I'm on the board, Senator Harkin's on the board, and that is chaired by New York State. That was a committee put together under an executive order by the governor. Within that group is called a school monitoring work group. These are technical experts, a couple elected officials, myself and environmental folks that are dealing with what to do, what's the best use of the $500,000 we received to address or mitigate any concerns around the, not decommissioning, what's your other word? Dismantling of the domes.
Dismantling.
So that school work group met last month. It's going to meet again tomorrow. They're going to release, that work group is going to release a statement of their work shortly, and we'll provide that to the community. I know that we've heard some folks concerned that we're opening the school and we don't have air monitoring. There is air monitoring in and around the neighborhood of BV and around the plant. There has always been air monitoring around the plant. The conversation that we're having is what additional air monitoring and what equipment is recommended to be used at the school, both inside and outside, as Holtec goes through dismantling. Decommissioning is the process of taking down the buildings. The dismantling is of the domes that have the greatest propensity of radiological activity and dust and particles within those domes. We're still at least 5 to 7 years away from that process beginning. So I know a lot of folks are anxious and concerned about BV being open while there's activity on that campus. The activity on that campus is not radiological or will have any or will produce any radiological activity that will impact neighbors, the school, or any residents. So there's a little bit of a misnomer that decommissioning is happening while school is opening. I'm not a technical expert. I've been in enough meetings to say that that campus is in its safest state today than it ever has been. It is not producing nuclear energy. There are no safety risks as there were when the plant was open. So I hope parents understand that. I know that when we were before the pandemic and both reactors were working at full bore, there wasn't that safety concern because there was a little more trust in the system in terms of what Indian Point was doing and their monitoring. The dismantling of the domes, we are still a number of years away. And this school work group and the decommissioning oversight board will make recommendations of what the best pathway is for those $500,000 to get ready for dismantling. But again, we are a number of years away from that. And hopefully the oversight board or the school monitoring work group comes out with that statement. I've asked them for that. I'm not qualified to write that. I'm not a technical expert, but they have committed to prepare that statement for the entire community. It's not just our school community, but our entire community before school opens.
Before school, like so very soon.
I have a question. The air monitoring equipment, is it only for nuclear radioactive material, or is it monitoring anything that would be associated with the dismantling of the
Like
plant as
dust.
well? Like it'd be for
Silica.
VOCs or anything else, right? Okay. So that is something that does occur with the dismantling at Indian Point, unrelated to the radioactive tower. So the sooner we can get that in place, the better, because they're very thing that we're hoping for it to monitor is what is beginning now, which is the non-radioactive buildings that are coming down, right? So it makes sense that we have this sooner than later.
Well,
not 5 to
That
7 years.
exists. I mean, there is monitoring that exists. That is.
That's nuclear monitor, radioactive monitoring now, right? Or do we have
All
dust
air
monitoring
quality,
too?
yeah.
Good.
Air
All
quality monitoring.
Okay, great.
What exists right now is air quality monitoring.
Perfect.
What we were given was $500,000 to improve or enhance or add equipment in and around the school proper.
Okay, thank you.
I think you had two
So,
questions.
and then not a question, so a few of us were on the WESPA meeting, Westchester School Board Association, Westchester Putnam School Board Association. So I think myself and all the new board members were
Oh,
on.
thank you, guys.
Yeah, so, but really it was very introductory. It was really just, we just met, we went over the sort of the pillars of what our role is, our advocacy, and what we presented was where we left off last year. With what the priorities were that we were advocating under, and then looking for everyone to kind of go back and look at those and decide what we want to do going forward for this year. That's really what we
How many
got through.
people are part of that?
So I think on the phone call, there was like a little over a dozen, maybe.
Yeah, a
about
little more.
dozen?
Yeah, I'd say like 20.
Yeah,
10.5%, so we were at 25% of the call.
yeah.
Nice.
So, I mean, one thing they did talk about is just looking at, I think that one of the biggest conversations was just looking about if there was a possible downturn in the economy, like how are we preparing ourselves for that? I think that was probably the biggest point that we left with. And the risks as a group for us to look at that and how we could advocate to the state to ensure that we are able to keep our programs. So just for everyone to hear.
Awesome. That's great.
Thank you.
So I don't know if this is the right time, but Carmen, I think we should put Jen or Erica or somebody's info.
So you've
know-
decided, are both of you gonna do it? Because they're asking for.
They're
somebody
asking
and
for
somebody
just,
to be-
can it be more than one contact
I don't
or?
know, I can ask them that.
Okay, maybe put Jen and then she can share it out to
Sure.
the group.
That's how it worked. Lisa was the primary last year, and if she couldn't make it, I was like her backup.
Yeah.
Her alternate.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you, Carmen. Right.
And
Any-
Jen, thanks for taking that.
Yeah.
Roll.
That update. Oh. Well, somebody else has to join me, but yes.
Any other board comments, new business? All good? Okay. Anyone out there in the audience want to make a comment about non-agenda items?
You want to let the public know that after the meeting, we'll finish our retreat?
Yeah, so the board spent last night from 6 to 10 PM working on retreat and board business. And after this public meeting, we will go back to the retreat to talk about our operations as a board and how we can do a better job operating and working together to support the district and the district's goals. And we will share with the public a little bit about what comes out of the retreat in the next meeting or the following,
We'll
later in
see what we
September.
get through today.
Okay, so maybe later in September. And that's it.
The one thing are we gonna get a Princeton plan update next week?
Yeah, we're in the process of identifying a number of classrooms, fully done, partially done, not yet done, music rooms, art rooms, libraries. So the principals are going through a checklist and providing that to me.
So our next meeting is actually next week,
Wednesday, the
the
31st.
31st of August at
We can do 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock. Good,
Okay.
That's it?
Motion to adjourn.
all right, can I have a motion to close the meeting?
Second.